I recently posted a reel on Instagram on something that I know a lot of agents can relate to, and that is when you finally close a nightmare transaction. In this reel, I actually asked for you guys to drop me a comment and let me know what your craziest transaction was. And let me tell you, a lot of you delivered. Some of the stories that I have read are absolutely crazy. And in this video, I am actually going to be showcasing one. This comment caught my attention and it was from Vinny All City. And he said, just had one. Other agent and broker refused to communicate. The seller lied about repairs he did, then wouldn't leave the house after funding. So happy to have got it done. So you know what? I actually reached out to this agent. His name is Vincent out in Texas. And I had him share the story, and here it is.
So I walk in and he's there with his parents. So automatically I'm like, well, usually on closing day, everything's out the house. There's nobody there. So I'm like, he's here with his parents. There's more stuff there than which was there when we went for the walkthrough the previous time. So I'm like, how did more furniture get in the house? You're not really trained ahead of time for a situation where a seller just says, I'm not leaving. I'm Vincent, All City Real Estate with the Adira Homes Group. I'm out here in Dallas, Texas, cover Fort Worth and some of Austin, Texas still. Basically, just to preface it, we had a buyer who they were excited to upgrade from their house. They were selling theirs to move to a bigger one. So, everything's smooth. And with those kind of deals, you have to line everything up perfectly. We lined everything up. We found them this house, get the contract in. And things got a little sticky with when we requested repairs, but overall they agreed to all the repairs, which was like, they were gonna change the carpets. It was like 4-bedroom carpets, and there was some fungal growth that they wanted, a mold inspection on. So whatever. Anyways, for 2 weeks, we're kind of waiting for invoices and updates, and we're talking to their broker, and their broker's not responding back. And then they tell us, oh, the seller's a little difficult, and we're like, okay, whatever, no big deal. We'll get to the walkthrough. We'll hopefully see some invoices. So they send us like an invoice of some repairs, and then we get 2 screenshots of what the carpet might look like the new carpets. And in the picture, we're like, you can't really tell if it's a new carpet or not, So we go to the walkthrough and we're just shocked because it's all the same carpets we saw when we initially, saw the home, and everything still looked the same. So we reach out and we're like, look, we're, the buyer's frustrated. Everything still kind of looks the same. It doesn't look like he did the carpets. It just looks like he vacuumed them, And she's like, they said they did everything. And we're like, no, you have to have a talk with him and get everything going, or else you guys are in breach because you're not doing the things you said you'd do. Long story short, we do another walkthrough. We're going back to do another walkthrough because he says he did everything, right? We get an invoice for the carpets and all this stuff. So we walk in, it's the day of closing, right? So we're walking in, we did an early morning walkthrough. I walk in, he's there with his parents, with all the furniture in the home. Carpets have not been redone. He did one carpet and the rest were still the same carpet. And he starts trying to negotiate with me and my buyers right there with no representation on his side, telling me, hey, well, it's okay because this carpet, I never really, did anything in that room. So that carpet's kind of new. And these 2 are okay. And this one's new. And we were like, no, we can't negotiate right here. This is what you agreed to do. So my buyers are standing there just confused. He's negotiating with me, trying to tell me if you guys, don't sign the contract, will I get money in return for wasting my time and all this? And it was crazy because in that moment, I'm having contract talk with a seller whose agent should have had, managed his expectations about all this stuff. And then he tells us, oh, well, I need 2 or 3 days to move out of here. Even though today's closing day, I need 2 or 3 days. And we're like, that cannot happen, right? So I'm like, look, I said, it's not your fault. Your agent and your broker should be on top of this. We're going to leave. We're going to talk. You talk to your broker and we'll try to find a way to fix this, right? So, we communicate with the broker and they're like, at the time of funding, there will be a key in the mailbox and everything should be out. So we're like, okay. And we're already dealing with the fact that he didn't do the stuff he said he was going to do. And at that point, my buyers are like, look, if he could just, give us a check or something for the work that he didn't do, we just want to move in. So they show up after funding and there's no key in the mailbox and he's still in there with all of his furniture telling them, I need 2 or 3 days. I'm not leaving. Like, I need time to get my stuff out. And they're like, we sold our home. We agreed to move in today. We're moving in today. So we were getting calls like, we need you guys to come down here. We're in a battle with this guy, and his agent showed up and she's trying to tell us, hey, he just needs a day. We're like, but that wasn't what was signed in the agreement. You can't just tell people, well, you have to wait 1 more day now. Because what if they're in a hotel? It's like, and they had 4 kids. So we're like, that can't happen. You guys got to figure something out here. But it came to them having to call the police and kind of, I won't say anything like strong arm or threaten, but they had to say, hey, look, like we need to move in here. We have nowhere to go. We have all of our stuff in a truck. We got 4 kids, we got, school and work and things happening on Monday. So, I mean, it was crazy. He had to call friends to come down and help him, but he was really standing strong on well, I didn't understand that I had to do all that work, and I didn't understand I had to be out on closing day. And we were just like, dumbfounded at, not only did he not talk to his broker about this stuff, but like he was just like, well, this is what I'm gonna do. And yeah, and it's a situation where you're like, you're not really trained ahead of time for a situation where a seller just says, I'm not leaving. I mean, so I got there a little before my clients did, so I naturally wanted to go walk in and just start to get a sense of what I was dealing with. So I walk in and he's there with his parents, so automatically I'm like, well, usually on closing day, everything's out the house. There's nobody there. So I'm like, he's here with his parents. There's more stuff there than which was there when we went for the walkthrough the previous time. So I'm like, how did more furniture get in the house? So I'm kind of like, this is working backwards. So in my head, I'm like, how am I going to go outside now and tell my buyer clients like, hey, he still has all his furniture in here and he only redid one carpet? Because then he starts opening doors and telling me, oh, by the way, I did this one carpet. And I said, well, you had agreed to do all the carpets. And he said, well, I didn't know I had to do all of them. And I was like, but that, that's either a lie. But when we did the first walkthrough, the carpets weren't done. So I'm like, were you trying to pretend they were done and tell us they were done? So I just couldn't grasp what was happening. But I was able to sort of like tell him, because he was angry at first, he's like, well, you're in here telling me this and telling me that. And I'm dealing with someone else's client, So I have to be very delicate about being like, I know this isn't your fault, sir. This is a miscommunication between you and your broker and your agent. And he started agreeing with me, being like, yeah, they didn't communicate with me very well because I'm confused right now. And I'm like, well, this is closing and funding day. Like they're moving in today. So technically you are supposed to be out with your stuff. And it was just one of those, like, I couldn't believe we were dealing with it. And then my buyer showed up and he was trying to negotiate with them as well. And I had to kind of keep jumping in to be like, hey, we can't negotiate like this, It was wild, but a lot of lessons were learned about managing expectations. And now I'm like, okay, at least I went through this so that if anyone else on my team, some of the newer, really brand new agents go through this, I can say, well, let me tell you how this went, because it was surreal. I didn't want to do the panic method. I wanted to reassure it, like handle him the same way I handle my clients, which is, well, your goal here is to move, right? Your goal here is to sell this home and move. And my client's objective is to move into this home because they sold theirs. So I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to fight with you. I want to figure out how we're going to make this work because this shouldn't come down to this. You know what I mean? Like they have to move and you put your home on the market to sell. So, we're just trying to figure out how to, work around this and problem solve because that's what our job is, to problem solve. So I'm like, I'm not going to fight with this guy and ruin this situation for my clients because what if I fight with him and then he's like, you know what? I don't care if the contract gets canceled. Then I got to go back to my buyers and say, well, you guys and your 4 kids got to go stay at your sister's house for another 2 weeks until we find something. So you have to think about your client before you think about yourself in that moment and just keep a composure and try not to, sometimes say the things you really want to say, which is like, are you crazy? But I just try to keep it normal and be like, I totally understand your situation. I get that you're a little confused, but let's communicate with our people and figure out how to get to closing today, And we did. And then after funding, obviously there was all that excitement too, but we got to the table, so it was crazy, but yeah, it was definitely keeping some composure there. Oh, for us, I mean, for me and my team members, we were like, something that we need to do is spell things out. Like we're spelling them out like people are 10 years old. And sometimes you need to spell them out like they're 5 years old. Like when you're doing those repair amendments or you're getting the verbal confirmation for things, I think it's always best, like you said, to double and triple check that people understand what's actually happening. Because for a seller to tell me I had no idea I had to move out the day it was closing and funding, I'm like, this stuff is basic stuff. And the team the team on the other side, they're veteran brokers. Like they're a team that's done a lot of work. So I was just kind of shocked by the miscommunication. And I'm like, hey, I think it's all about managing your client's expectations and let them know, hey, things could go awry. We're here to problem solve. Let's just have plan A's and plan B's, especially for people who are maybe selling their home to move into another. Hey, let's find a plan B for where you would stay if some date changes. Let's have a plan C for if something else goes crazy. But yeah, it's definitely just spell it out like they're 5, put everything in writing, and double check with the agent verbally as well to just be like, hey, we're good, right? You saw this, your client understands this, we're 100% okay. But yeah, lots of lessons learned.